Hey everybody, I'm Eric Kirk with MuchMusic, and the man to my left needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it. Performing at this year's CCMAs, Sam Hunt. How's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man.
So, you're back performing at the CCMAs once again this year. Your last time was in 2016.
Yep.
Big question, north of the border, have you ever noticed a big difference from the crowds here in Canada opposed to our southern neighbors?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, early on, especially early on, when I just put out music on the internet and didn't really expect anybody who we were playing for to know much about me or my music, but there was this sort of groundswell in Canada that happened early on, and a lot of those shows were really intimate, so you really could see people up close and personal, and there was just a whole lot of excitement that was really encouraging back when we were first getting started. But there was a level of excitement that was unique to Canada. So that was my first time to Canada back then, and I've made a point to try to get back when we can ever since.
Awesome, and the fans definitely love it. I'm sure you have no issues selling out here.
Well, we've got to do a tour. We were just talking about this. We played in Calgary at the Stampede a few days ago.
Oh yeah.
And it was a great crowd, and we've got to. Obviously, the last few years have been pretty crazy as far as border crossings go, but I think we have to get a tour of some kind set up here so we can do more than just a one-off here and there.
So you mentioned that your new single Outskirts is written from the perspective of a single bachelor.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, since you've been releasing albums, your life has changed so much, from breakups to marriage to being a first-time father, which congratulations, by the way.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
How have you found your writing process changing from album to album as your life changes?
That's a good question. It took me a little while after, getting married. I didn't necessarily write from a place of discontent, but I think I picked up the guitar during my angsty 20s, when you're out on, leaving my small town, going out into the world and experiencing it for the first time, and there was all these feelings and emotions to draw from. And then you get married and you're happy and content. You don't find yourself picking up the guitar as often as an outlet to express yourself. So it's been a journey there, trying to figure out how to approach writing from a place of content. You can kind of draw from past experiences, or like you just mentioned, this song Outskirts, where you kind of imagine what life would be like had you taken a different route and write from that perspective. Now I try to draw inspiration from movies or other music, or just observing the world and my friends going through things, and it's you can kind of get into a character as well and kind of imagine what would it be like to be in this position and write from that perspective. So I've learned to write from hypothetical positions as I've gotten older, as opposed to drawing directly from what I'm going through in the moment.
As soon as I get out here on the outskirts, I wish I was running by your house first.
Since you've jumped onto the scene, you've always never been afraid to kind of tightrope between genres and bring a little from any other genres into country music. As you've progressed, the country music scene has become so much more mainstream, with so many other artists also doing the same. How do you feel about the way that it's progressed to become more bar music, more music that the fans are really listening to now?
I think it's great. I think it's brought in a whole new audience over the years. Some of maybe the pop music, hip hop kind of became pop over the last 10 or 15 years. And some of that music, has gone so far away from where it used to be that some of those fans that were sort of in the middle or may have listened to pop music traditionally have found themselves gravitating towards country music, where there's a story that you can relate to. Some of the melodies have become a little more pop-like, catchy kind of melodies that some of those traditional pop fans might have been attracted to. So a lot of that has been absorbed by country music, and I think country music has absorbed a lot of those fans who aren't necessarily on board with the pop mainstream music, which a lot of it is, like I said, is hip-hop music. And not everybody relates necessarily directly to the country culture that we sing about, but I think there is a lot more that country has to offer those folks than maybe it has in the past. And hopefully I think we still are holding on to a lot of the traditional elements that are worth preserving in
For
country
sure.
music, because I think that's important too.
So there seems to be a really fine line when it comes to touring as an artist, because you want to play all the songs that the fans come to hear, the hits and stuff, but you also want to play songs that mean something to you. Where do you find that line in balancing kind of the perfect show, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think this summer we've just finally gotten to a point where, you know, we've played 90-minute sets now, for 75 to 90-minute sets now. And for the past few years, it's felt like a stretch to get to that. And, you know, you can throw some covers in there, but it's hard to come up with a good cover to play, because you don't want to just throw in a cover that just feels like you're trying to cover your time. You want every song to mean something. So it's been tricky for me to find the right cover, so I've tried to play originals. You know, and there's a fine line there between playing songs that you would like people to hear for the first time, or maybe songs that they haven't heard, and songs that, you know, everybody's a little more familiar with. But luckily now that I've finally gotten to a point where I've put out enough music that I can play close to 90 minutes and feel like each song has a place, and it's not just a filling time. So, but there is a balance there. I still try to work in some new songs, or some songs that may mean a little more to me, but may not have connected as broadly to as many people. And hopefully the set can kind of tell a story, and I can get some of the more upbeat, fun songs that are sing-along, good time songs, and some of the songs that are maybe a little more poignant, or maybe reflect something I'm going through or have gone through in the last year or two. So I'm trying to just weave that story within the set list.
You've always done a really good job of bringing, not to say undercovered artists on tour with you, but some of the lesser known artists will always play before you, they'll open for you. In your opinion right now, who is a little bit of an underknown artist that you think deserves a little bit more recognition?
Man, there are so many great artists now that are bubbling up through TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. And I've watched some of my buddies bubble up and then blow up over the last few years. My buddy Ernest, who I was in writing with 3 or 4 years ago, we were in writing all the time, and he had such a thing then, and he was still molding it, and he's sort of found his voice in the last couple of years. Hardy, and when we were all writing over there at their record label, Morgan was in the other room tracking his first record with Joey Moy. He produced all Florida Georgia Line stuff and Nickelback stuff. Seeing those guys evolve and find their voice and really hit it big in the mainstream is really cool, because to be there and watch it grow from the little seed that it begins as is really cool. But those are just 3 guys right off the bat who I've watched over the last few years really blossom. It's really cool to see.
As a sports guy, I would be remiss to not ask. You spent some time as a quarterback in the NCAA for the UAB Blazers.
Yeah.
I've got to ask, what is more intimidating, walking out to a sold-out stadium or watching a D1 pocket collapse?
A few years ago, I would say walking out to a crowd of 5 people or 10,000 people would be more intimidating. But I've settled in. I've gotten a little more accustomed to it. You know, like playing football, I've been doing that since I was 6 years old. I picked up a guitar when I was 18 and have always sort of felt like an imposter with a guitar, because I was always a ball player, not a musician or artist, or even dabbling in the arts in general. I feel a lot more comfortable now. I think it was sort of latent in me all along. I just needed to dig it out and tap into it. Yeah, definitely more intimidating to pick up a guitar and get in front of some folks and try to sing them a song early on. I've gotten a little more comfortable with it, although it's still a little nerve-wracking.
Sam, thank you so much for coming on. Go stream Sam's new single, Outskirts, and catch him on tour.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Good to talk to you.
Appreciate it,
Thanks,
man.
bud.
You doing anything for the day?
Man. Yeah, we're going to go catch the Blue Jays game.
Oh, I'm going there too.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, making a full day down here.
Yeah.